Hello, everyone. My name's Rom Daniel Chuotek. I am the producer for MechBois, and this is the final presentation for Cronus Machina. These are our final stats for Sprint 7. We had 87 points assigned, 63 points moved into complete, 19 points left in assign with 0 in verify, and 5 in progress at the time of this recording. Um, there's an average velocity of 48 points per sprint, and then this is our burn down chart. As you can see, there's a small gap between our ideal and actual, which isn't a bad thing, considering the amount of time that we were given and the small groups that we had. Pretty good work overall. Things that went wrong. Early delays in the Jira board made it really hard to just catch up or for early prep, and it just made a bunch of catch up work, which created more work over several sprints, which I really didn't like. I would have liked to have this Euro board immediately before the sprint started rolling around, and I feel like it would have helped a lot. Heavy late work. A lot of times during the build days, there was heavy cramming during builds. I accepted it, even though I shouldn't have. This was mainly because a lot of people are in 495. I understand that, and I understand the need for cramming to work on this project, as well as their big project 495. I get it. Um, I accepted it. I shouldn't have, but I, in general, there was nothing much we could do there. Just bad timing. Early communication was also heavily disorganized. During the beginning, I didn't have these one-to-one meetings that I'd have with everyone. It would just be a group schedule meeting and just to ping me on a need basis. This was bad because my group members felt like they weren't really communicating with me in terms of how the project's going, what work is done, all that kind of jazz. Um, and I feel like these weekly check-ins should have been there starting week one. Now that I've realized it. What went right? Final products and work done. Although a lot of late work was crammed in, we had an amazing final product. Um, and we had a bunch of work done each sprint. Everyone worked hard. The use of group meetings for one-to-ones, these practically worked out as a mini stand-up, I guess, to see what the current work was done, how's everything going, and if they need anything from me. This is also when I would also plan what they would be doing the upcoming sprint. So when stand-ups would start, I would have options to give them immediately without needing to ask the game designer, what do you think they would be working on? Or that sort of deal. Particle effects, Angel, our game designer, who you'll see later, gave me a bunch of tutorials on how to create these particle effects, which I felt uh, looked really well, especially for the explosives. And then fun focus. Every build that we made was built in to focus on the player's fun over what we wanted to create. And in general, we made a really fun game. Everyone felt like it was fun, if not most, um, during the end of every build, which I felt was great. Um, what did I learn? Plan early, as early as possible. Jira not being set up was detrimental in the early stages of this project. It was a bunch of catch up, a bunch of cards that was just disorganized. If I started this first, it would be immediate. I would immediately do this so that nothing with cards would have to be done later on. Um, and then probably the pre-planned meetings as well during these one-to-ones. I would have liked to start that as early as possible. Coders need time for builds. This is a given, but how much time was not in my line of thinking. There should have been like 3 to 4 days before the build was due to work out any bugs or kinks, anything that was detrimental to the build, and take it out of there. This is especially important when you have multiple programmers, two or more, because if one thing goes wrong with one programmer's code, everything goes wrong. Um, Particles. Our game designer was able to give me some easy to follow tutorials to create these particles. They look really nice. He'd still help me with a bit of them, but overall, these tutorials help, and it helped make our game look better than it was before our final launch. Um, if I would do anything differently, set up the Jira board, do the one-to-ones immediately, day one, week one. If I would do something again, these particle effects would be great. How I constructed the one-to-ones also felt pretty nice. But yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.
Alright, so first off, what did I do wrong during this project? I think the lack of stylistic cohesion between all the props was definitely an issue. This was just due to me not knowing what the levels would look like or what zones Angel would be creating in the levels, so I didn't really get uh, a vibe of like what the unified final product would look like. So when I was making a lot of the models, I was just winging it really, and obviously there were some art style decisions that I wanted to keep between all of them, but I think it definitely could have been a lot more unified if I had more information on the levels. Also, not having any texture sets, that was a big one. I got a lot of the models piecemeal assigned to me, so one by one. They weren't given to me in sets, and again, I didn't know what specific zones would be created with these props. So I just got the props one by one, and that meant that each one was on its own texture set, and obviously that created a really big file size because textures can get really big and take up a lot of information. And last, not uploading models to the drive. That was just me forgetting stuff and also just being busy with 495. That's totally my fault. So, and that's definitely something I'll be working on in the future. So what did I do right? I think my work output was great. Every week I was just pumping out cards, models, UVs, textures, and it was really fast paced. Even I think my slowest sprint, I was maybe making up 40% of the points done by the whole team. Also, receiving good references. Angel, whenever he needed something specific for a model, he would give me really good reference for it, and really showcasing what he wants out of the model. Like, for example, with that wheel enemy, he was very specific on what he wanted for that, and the references he gave really helped me shape that enemy into how it looks now. But this leads into my third thing that I think I went that went right was my ability to improvise. When he didn't give me any specific direction, he just gave me a overall vibe of what he wanted. Then I would use my ability to adapt and improvise to sort of create my own thing and put my own spin on things. Like, for example, that blimp enemy. He just asked for a blimp. I added the superstructure, the guns, as well as the armor plating. For the tank, that one was based off of how it functioned in the playtest and not necessarily specific orders given to me. And what did I learn? Modeling environments. So just like that time machine scene where the player can upgrade their mech, as well as alphas. Alphas was something that I haven't done in a long time, since maybe 270 or 230. Sorry, those early modeling classes, and I haven't used it since. And so coming back to that was very interesting, and that was a great way to jog my memory on how to do alphas, and also just modeling characters like the mech. I know it's not character modeling in the sense of making a humanoid shape, but I had never really done something like that before, and I really enjoyed it. Each piece moves independently, so it can be rigged to walk like a person would, and I really enjoyed making it. I would totally do something like this again, or touch it up to make it look better. So, yeah, that's my part. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shane, and this is what went wrong for this development. So lack of communications is a pretty big one. There wasn't a lot of communications behind the scenes for the developers, and this caused certain issues with script implementations. And so that also led to another issue, which was the lack of proper documentation. A lot of my scripts I might have documented, but they weren't really great details. And so when going back, there was a lot of confusion on what the system did or what that specific part of the code did. And this also led to the issue of communication, where the other developer, when looking into the code, might not have fully understand it, causing some bugs because of that. Another issue was time management. I was developing another game at the time, and I prioritized the wrong systems. So I prioritized the feel over the function, and that caused a little bit of slowdown, and that can kind of be seen with like the upgrade system, where it took a while to get nailed down due to me focusing the feel rather than the function. As for things that went right, the player's overall kit and guns felt really nice. A lot of players didn't have anything to complain about it, which I'll take as positive news. And I always felt that they looked and felt really punchy and nice. Another great thing that happened this development was asking for clarification. There was multiple different ways things could have gotten implemented with the flamethrower. It could have been just a bullet or a collider, but we decided on having it be this invisible thing, and borrowed a lot of inspiration from the TF2 design for the flamethrower. Another great thing was bug fixing quality control. We had quite a few bugs that never got to see the light of day because we'd squash it immediately. And while quite a few did get through, the ones that did get through, most of them, if not all of them, were documented. I think there was only one that we just really could not pin down, and even then, it was kind of mitigated by other systems. So that was something that went really well. As for what did I learn, it was commenting code is very important, but good comments is even more important. So that way, both you or someone else, when they go back to your work later on, you can understand it, and not spend too much time trying to re-educate yourself with your own code. Communication within developers is incredibly important to make sure that scripts don't have any redundancy or just overall oversights, and it really helps to make sure that scripts can mesh with each other. And the most important one was forward planning and thinking. We had a couple of issues where things were hard coded, such as damage, and that really slowed down the process, because then not knowing that stuff was hard coded meant a lot of stuff had to get debugged, and then we realized, oh, hey, this system really shouldn't be so narrow minded. If it was more adaptive, then we can quickly change on the fly. It's like, hey, this damage needs to be like this size of the collider needs to be this big. And so having forward planning or thinking towards systems or just design on overall really helped, making sure that the design could adapt on the fly, and if changes needed to happen, they could happen quickly rather than needing to be redone from not the ground up, but from like the core or the roots. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am Angel Madueño, and I'm the lead of this project and also the level designer. So, what went wrong with me? One of the things that went wrong was the communication between programmers was very inconsistent, especially when responding to certain feedback and getting the build together. Another thing was that sometimes delayed 3D assets um, that were incorporated in the game. Very few had to be cut, but it delayed the process of the level design, of the maps being built. Another thing is the levels lacked polish in terms of scaling, structure, as well as culling and basically on processing as well as occlusion data. So I really wish that it was more organized. The scenes were a bit more organized. The levels were more fleshed out and structured. Again, taking this course and 495 is not recommended, especially with the two roles I play on both projects. This one especially. Now, what went right? There were a few things that went right that I really liked. The overall game was clear, and everyone seemed to understand the direction it was going. As a designer, that was very amazing. That everyone was on board with the with the idea, and people, if they had any questions, they would always ask, or the GDD pretty much referred to most of the questions they wanted answers to. The 3D artist was very consistent. He delivered a lot of cohesive assets matched with the art directions, and programmers definitely successfully built the core gameplay mechanics that were needed in there. Do be it some bugs, but overall the game was not breaking. It was playing, and some people actually fairly enjoyed it, especially during the final play of the game. Producer always prioritized tasks. He was always aligned with the game concept, and he understood the game very well. It's really nice to have a producer that shares the same vision as the designer, make sure they're on the same page, so that they can answer any other questions instead of having to go to me. The art style was consistent, do be it some of the props was a bit sloppy and the texture sets could have been better, but the props do end up meshing well together. I think this game really came together, and it also has a very good potential, has a very strong foundation. So I think this game really came together. Now, what did I learn? Balancing design leadership with level design, heavy involvement with level design in both 495 and 470 is a lot of work. I don't recommend it, even on my worst enemy. I lost so much sleep. There was so much work to be done. Sometimes I found this class to be on the back end. I really wish that, especially a class of a game I'm designing for, I should be focusing on. So I wish I didn't neglect it just as much. Iterative playtest is very crucial. I rely too heavily on the playtests we do on those forums, and instead I should have done playtests where they are in person rather than not seeing people play it. As a level designer, I need to physically be there to see what happens. I felt like our data could have been so much better and it could avoid so many problems at the end. And also having 2 days in advance to build instead of the same day, we ended up staying up countless nights just to fix it, especially having two programmers who can't communicate sometimes, where the build becomes a whole mess and we have to figure out what the issues are. And especially sometimes at build night, one of those programmers are absent. It becomes a bit hectic because it has to deal with both systems. Very overloaded projects with new features. I would definitely focus on the existing mechanics rather than implementing the main ones. That's something I need to focus on. And relying too much on programming can backfire. Again, two programmers is really hard, especially if you don't have them meet one on one. One of them is bound to be confused with the other systems. Definitely going forward, I would change that. I would have them meet together and have them communicate more. That way they're on the same page, especially if they do different things. So that's something I definitely would recommend going forward.
Hello, everybody. So the thing that went right on my end was that I had a smaller schedule compared to the rest of my group, so I was able to put more time into the project to complete whatever assigned card I had during each sprint. The communication with the higher ups was pretty solid all around. I was able to fix any problem that they told me to fix, and they were also able to keep me on track and telling me every problem they encounter. And a lot of the enemies and the bosses for this game turned out pretty great. Most of the enemies I was able to get out of the way. The kamikaze was like the quickest enemy that I've ever finished in this entire class. The wave and spot systems took their time to be worked on, but they were able to come out pretty manageable on the long run. Now, the thing that went wrong is the lack of a communication, mostly with the other programmer. I wish I would have like communicated with the programmer more. That way, we could have like worked together just to fix the bug sooner rather than at the last minute. And some of my coding structure was weird. For one example, for most of my enemy child scripts, they had their own update and start functions, where I should have been putting most of them in the start and update, as you can see here. And even though I was able to complete my cards, I should have took more advantage to fix some of the more major bugs that we had to fix in the last minute. What I learned from this whole process is the value of nav mesh. I really want to thank our designer for introducing me to nav mesh. That saved me. That really saved me from the code that I would have been making if I hadn't found out, which would make things more complicated. And I've also learned how to plan better with codes. Like I was able to brainstorm a lot of the enemies and code them accordingly to my ideas. And I've also learned how to build and run more consistently. I realize how important that is for bug testing and version testing.